days left in the year. This is Halloween. Today's highlights: on October the 31st, 1517, Martin Luther sent his 95 Theses denouncing what he saw as the abuses of the Catholic Church, especially the sale of indulgences to the Archbishop of Mainz, Germany. By some accounts, Luther also posted the theses on the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg, marking the start of the Protestant Reformation. In 1864, Nevada became the 36th state as President Abraham Lincoln signed a proclamation. In 1926, magician Harry Houdini died in Detroit of peritonitis resulting from a ruptured appendix. In 1941, the Navy destroyer USS Reuben James was torpedoed by a German U-boat off Iceland with a loss of some 100 lives, even though the United States had not yet entered World War II. Work was completed on the Mount Rushmore National Memorial in South Dakota, begun in 1927. In 1967, Nguyen Van Thieu took the oath of office as the first president of South Vietnam's Second Republic. In 1975, the Queen's single Bohemian Rhapsody was released in the United Kingdom by EMI Records. In 1984, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was assassinated by 2 Sikh security guards. And in 1999, Egypt Air Flight 990, bound from New York to Cairo, crashed off the Massachusetts coast, killing all 217 people aboard. I'm looking now for my birthday list because I'm going to read the birthdays. Well, guess what, guys? You've done it again. There's no birthdays today. My son, Chris, it's his birthday, but he lives in Florida. He can't hear me. Birthdays: actress Lee Grant is 92. Former astronaut Michael Collins is 87. Former CBS anchorman Dan Raga is 86. Folk singer Tom Paxton is 80. Actor David Ogden Stiers is 75. Olympic gold medal long-distance runner Frank Shorter is 70. Actress Deirdre Hall is 70. TV show host Jane Pauley is 67. Actor Dermot Mulroney is 54. Rock musician Mickey D is 54. Country singer Darryl Worley is 53. Rap performer Vanilla Ice, aka Rob Van Winkle, is 50. Rock singer Lynn Berggren from Ace of Base is 47. Gospel singer Smokey Norfolk is 44. Actress Piper Perabo is 41. Actress Samare Armstrong is 37. And actress Vanessa Morano is 25. Over to you, my dear.
Okay, I have the Livewire Observer Staff section. All indications are that Faircloth Garage has closed. Question: Faircloth Garage on Drake Street seems to be closed. Have they moved? I've been a customer for 25 years and would like to continue doing business with them. Can you help me find out if they have closed or moved? T.S. from Fayetteville. Your answer: as of October 23rd, the listed telephone for the auto repair shop off Ramsey Street had been disconnected. An employee with a neighboring business on Drake Street said Faircloth Garage has moved and that the owner was now working on vehicles from his home. He closed the Drake Street location a few weeks ago, she said. Attempts to reach the owner were unsuccessful. He did not return phone messages. Michael Fudge. Question: on Camden Road Extension, where they put a new bridge in, when will it reopen? GS from Fayetteville. Answer: the project is being completed in phases, with the entire project scheduled for completion by late summer of 2018, according to the State Department of Transportation. We are widening Camden Road to 4 lanes with a median between Oakland Avenue and Owen Drive. said Andrew Barksdale, a spokesman for the Fayetteville Division of State Department of Transportation. The section between Oakland Avenue and Natal Road has been completed, Barksdale said. We hope to open that newly widened section to traffic in about a month, as soon as the contractor can place permanent pavement markings on the roadway, he said. As for the rest of the project, the contractor is aiming to finish by late summer 2018. Work began on the 2.2-mile project in 2015. The contract, worth $12 million, was awarded to Highland Paving Company, LLC.
Okay. Need to know, item 1. Downtown trick or treat. Many downtown businesses will be ready to welcome children from 4 to 6 p.m. today for Halloween. The Cool Spring Downtown District is expecting nearly 50 shops, restaurants, and others to take part in this year's downtown trick or treat event. Go to the Facebook event page for more information and a downloadable map of participating locations. Item 2. Carriage rides with the Count. While you're downtown, check out Carriage Rides with the Count. Folks can get a scary tour of downtown Fayetteville from 3 to 8 p.m. when Count Dracula's perfectly horrible carriage rides will be offered. Tickets for the 10-minute rides are $10 for adults and $5 for children under 10. Tickets will be available starting at 2 p.m. at the Cool Spring Downtown Alliance District Center, 222 Hay Street. Item 3. Blood drives. The Cape Fear Valley Blood Donor Center has several upcoming blood drives. Donors also may go by the Blood Donor Center, which is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is open the third Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. All blood types are needed. However, the center has an urgent need for O-negative donors. For more information, call 615-5433. Upcoming blood drives include today at Long Branch Church, 2868 Minnie Hall Road, Autryville, from 4 to 8 p.m. and on Wednesday, Fayetteville VA Healthcare Center, 7300 Rayford Road, 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and on Thursday, State Employees Credit Union, 651 Executive Place, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Public safety, Cumberland County arrest. Brian Keith Clare Jr., 40 of the 6100 block of Rockfish Road in Hope Mills, was charged Monday with 2 counts each of breaking and entering, larceny, possessions of stolen property, obtaining property by false pretense, and conspiracy, and 1 count each of larceny of a firearm and possession of a stolen firearm. Bail was set at $18,000. Reginald Lee Drummond, 45, who is homeless, was charged Monday with abuse of a disabled or elderly person with injury. Bail was set at $10,000. A break-in at Hope Mills, Clifton Drive, reported at 11:29 a.m. on Sunday. Interior house lights taken, vehicle break-in. Weatherstone Drive, 100 block, reported at 2:05 a.m. Monday. Computer bag and unidentified item taken.
A little one here. A couple of little ones here. Man tells people he has been shot and later dies. A man in Lumberton who approached a parked car to say he had been shot later died, according to the Lumberton Police Department. Around 6:41 p.m. Monday, the man ran up to the car parked at 75 Jerome Street and told people nearby that he had been shot, according to a police news release. He collapsed. Officers arrived and began CPR. The man was taken to Southeastern Regional Medical Center, where he died, according to the release. Police are investigating. The crime scene is believed to be somewhere on Carolina Avenue. Anyone with information is asked to call Detective David Williford of the Lumberton Police Department, and that was from Myron Pitts, and work to close exit on outer loop. The ongoing construction of North Carolina 295 will require the outer loop's interchange at the All-American Freeway to partially close this week, the North Carolina Department of Transportation said. Between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, southbound traffic on the future Interstate 295 will not be allowed to exit at the All-American Freeway, the agency said. Instead, motorists will be directed to exit at Bragg Boulevard. The closure will allow workers to install a concrete barrier on a bridge near the All-American Freeway interchange for a future segment of NC 295. During the closure, drivers may continue to enter NC 295 at the All-American Freeway interchange, the agency said, and that's reported by Paul Warburton.
Alright, Harnett team faces indecent liberties charge. Lillington. The Harnett County team is accused of inappropriately touching a minor. Sean Allen Wilson, 17 of Bland Street in Spring Lake, was charged Sunday with taking indecent liberties with his minor and misdemeanor sexual battery. The incident happened Sunday in a neighborhood off Elliott Bridge Road, according to an arrest report from the Harnett County Sheriff's Office. No other information was given. Bail was set at $40,000.
Okay. This is from Parkton. A wheelchair-bound man died Saturday after he was hit by a vehicle on Lake Upchurch Drive, the Highway Patrol said. The accident happened at 10:05 p.m. near Black Bridge Road, about 4 miles south of Hope Mills, according to a report filed by Trooper B.K. Strickland. Thomas Joseph Pansley, 52, of West Mountain Drive in Fayetteville, was traveling west in his wheelchair, which he was operating in the roadway, Strickland's report said. The wheelchair did not have any reflective devices on it, and Pansley was not wearing reflective clothing. Oh dear. Several cars also traveling west on Lake Upchurch Road approached Pansley. The first two swerved and avoided hitting him. However, the third car, a 2005 Buick passenger car driven by Deanna Gillum Skaggs, 54, of Lake Upchurch Road in Parkton, hit the wheelchair, the report said. Pansley was taken to Cape Fear Valley Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead, and that was reported by Nancy McCleary. Oh dear, I'm sure nobody could see him. So scary.
Cool, dry Halloween awaits Cape Fear region by Chick Jacobs. Dressing for Halloween in the Cape Fear region can often be tricky. This year, it looks like we have a treat in store. Temperatures for trick-or-treating should be far more friendly than frightful, with Fayetteville sitting at 65 when the sun sets. Even later, temperatures should remain in the upper 50s. That means Halloween this year should be about like last year, with temperatures close to average and no threat of rain. According to National Weather Service forecaster Jonathan Blaze, a weak cold front will move into the western Carolinas early today, then drift through the Sandhills later. There had been hints of scattered light rain, but now it appears to be a dry front. Scattered clouds will be most likely the result. Temperatures will dip into the low to mid-40s by sunrise on Wednesday. By comparison, the coldest Halloween night on record in Fayetteville was 27 degrees back in 1952. When to trick-or-treat. Several communities and law enforcement organizations in the Cape Fear region have suggested times for children to trick-or-treat. Cumberland County, 6 to 8 p.m. Fayetteville, 6 to 8 p.m. Hope Mills, 6 to 8 p.m. Spring Lake, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Bladenboro, 6 to 8:30 p.m. Dunn, Sunset to 8:30 p.m. Elizabethtown, 5:30 to 9 p.m. Fairmont, 6 to 8:30 p.m. Hope County, 6 to 8 p.m. Lillington, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Lumberton, 6 to 8:30 p.m. Maxton, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Pembroke, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Red Springs, 6 to 8 p.m. Sanford, 6 to 9 p.m. and White Lake, 5 to 9 p.m.
Okay. Okay, here is an item about a mobile home that burned. This is by Nancy McCleary. Fayetteville firefighters were still trying Monday afternoon to determine the cause of a fire that burned an unoccupied mobile home in the Shore Heights community. The fire at 5862 Aura Road, which is off Tammy Street, was reported at 1:24 p.m., according to a Fayetteville Fire Department release. Aura Road is a small dirt street with about 5 mobile homes on it. Heavy fire was showing from the mobile home when firefighters arrived. There were no injuries, the release said. Steve L. Goodson and his wife, Dina Mutos, on Valley Road, are the only property owners listed for Aura Road, according to Cumberland County tax records.
Hope minister accused of forging bad check. Rayford, the minister of Hope County Church is accused of writing a bad check and forging the signature on it, Rayford police said. Lent Christopher Carr, 43, pastor of Enos Greater Pentecostal Assembly at 3300 Laurenburg Road, was charged Friday with felony worthless check and uttering a forged instrument with false endorsement. In January, Carr moved into the location, established his church, and took over the property, a police release said. Carr then learned that a large sum was owed in back taxes on the property. The release did not say how much was owed to the Hope County Tax Office. Carr began making payments to the tax office in May. On October 13th, Carr wrote a check for $9,050 to the tax office. The check belonged to the previous property owner. Carr found it inside the building, which is also his residence, and signed the prior owner's name on it. The release said bail was set at $10,000.
Okay. Here's something about Gen X again. This is by staff writer Steve Demain. The scientist who led a research team that found a potentially harmful chemical in the Cape Fear River last year is scheduled to speak at a meeting in Fayetteville on Thursday. Detlef Knapp, a professor at North Carolina State University, is one of 3 scientists who will be on a panel at a Gen X and Many More forum. 2 lawyers also are on the panel for the meeting, which will be at 6:30 p.m. in the Hendricks Science Complex at Methodist University. The panel is scheduled to discuss water, air, wells, aquifers, legal issues, marine life, pets, wildlife, and other issues. Gen X has been linked in studies to testicular, pancreatic, and liver cancer in animals, but it is not known whether those effects are the same in humans. Little is known about it and other compounds called emerging contaminants. State officials started investigating Gen X in June after news broke that Knapp and the team of researchers discovered elevated levels of the chemical in the river downstream from the Chemours plant, or Chemours, I don't know how that's pronounced. The compound has since been discovered in private wells near the plant, which is off North Carolina 87 in Bladen County, near the Cumberland County line. Chemours agreed to stop discharging Gen X into the river after the state started its investigation. The company is providing bottled water to residents who have wells with water that has elevated levels of the compound. State officials also are trying to determine if Gen X was released into the air at the plant, and that was by Steve Devane.
Bladen man sentenced in home invasion. Elizabethtown. A Bladenboro man accused in a home invasion robbery in Elizabethtown in 2016 will spend between 4.5 and 7.5 years in prison after pleading guilty Monday in Bladen County Superior Court. Thomas Howell Jr., 27, pleaded guilty to robbery with a dangerous weapon breaking and entering and possessing a controlled substance with intent to manufacture, sell, or deliver. Howell was charged with a September 7, 2016 robbery at an apartment in Elizabethtown, according to a release from the Bladen County District Attorney's Office. Howell robbed the occupant at gunpoint of cash and a laptop computer. The victim knew Howell and reported the crime as soon as Howell left the apartment. Warrants were issued for Howell, but he could not immediately be found, the release said. A week later, a Bladen Sheriff's Department deputy spotted a vehicle matching the description of Howell's. After a short chase, Howell, who was driving the car, was arrested. When lawmen searched Howell, they found Opana and Percocet in his possession, resulting in the drug charge.
Okay. We'll check the time. We're good. Home sales rise after a long slump. This is by Paul Wolverton. Sales of existing homes have continued to rise this year versus last year, a sign that the residential real estate market in the Fayetteville-Fort Bragg region continues to move out of its years-long slump. But the local housing market will truly grow until the area starts getting more good-paying jobs and more people, said the two real estate agents who closely track the health of the housing industry here. No population growth, no real job growth. We are super lucky to be keeping the market flat instead of spiraling down, wrote real estate agent David Evans of Main Street Realty in his most recent analysis of the local real estate market. The statistics are for home sales in Cumberland, Oak, and Lee counties, and in portions of Moore, Sampson, Layden, Robertson, Harnett, and Scotland counties. I hesitate to call it a rebound, said Wendy Harris of Team Harris Real Estate, but we are improving. The market is heading in the right direction. Through September 30th of this year, 4,727 existing homes were sold in the Fayetteville-Fort Bragg region. Last year, 4,342 were sold, says data from the Longleaf Pine Realtors Real Estate Trade Association. That is an 8.9% increase. Sales of newly built homes declined year over year to 964 this year from 1,021 last year. That's a 5.6% decline. And that's a good sign, Evans and Harris said, because for a long time the market has been out of whack. They said that until this year there have been too many newly built homes for sale locally, and that glut of new homes pushed down prices. Total annual home sales, new and existing, peaked in 2006. Then they declined as the recession started in 2007 and reached their nadir in 2012. Evans said builders built too many houses here in recent years. This was partly because in a recession, a military community is one of the few places that new homes can do well, he said, and partly because the expansion of Fort Bragg in 2011 brought personnel to the area from a base that was shut down in Atlanta. The housing glut left Fayetteville with a 12-month supply of unsold homes, Harris said, meaning it would take a year for every home on the market on any given day to be sold. That has dropped to 6 months, she said, and ideally it would be 3 to 4 months. Home builders have slowed construction, Evans said. Sale prices are rising, the data says. The average sale price for an existing home has been $146,852 this year, excuse me, compared with $142,911 last year. And even though fewer newly built homes are selling, Their average price as of September 30th was $240,988 compared with $253,563. Whoa. Homeowners thinking of selling need to consider the conditions in their immediate neighborhood and not the overall market. While some areas continue to do well, others still lag, she said. Also, Harris said a seller should make sure the house is updated, in great condition, and priced well.
Two-faced charges and credit card fraud. Elizabethtown. 2 men traveling on Venezuelan passports are accused of using Chrome credit cards to withdraw cash at an ATM in Bladen County. However, the men who had more than 300 clone cards in their possession when arrested are believed to have taken money from more accounts than just those. Sheriff James McVicker said in a release, "What we have uncovered is just the tip of the iceberg," he said. Edgar Gabriel Ch, 28, and Olento Ch Salazar, 38, of Venezuela, are charged with obtaining property by false pretense. The alleged ruse was discovered Thursday after the State Employees Credit Union notified the Bladen County Sheriff's Office that the 2 men were using fraudulent credit cards to withdraw money from the bank's Cash Points ATM in Clarkton, the release said. The bank was tracking the men as they used various ATMs, the release stated. The men had used bogus cards to withdraw money from a Cash Points ATM in Southport earlier that day, the release said, but left before law enforcement arrived. When the Bladen County Sheriff's Office was notified, a deputy who was in Clarkton was on the scene in minutes and caught the men withdrawing money, the release said. These men were staying in a hotel in Conway, South Carolina, McVicker said. My investigators went to Conway and executed a search warrant on their hotel room. We recovered 4 laptops, a card scanning device, notebooks, ledgers, over $7,000 in U.S. currency, and over $30,000 in foreign currency. Card scanning devices are used to scan credit cards for account and identifying information, and stores the data in a magnetic strip and loads it onto a clone card. The men had a total of 326 clone cards in their possession when arrested. The difficult part of cases like this is they are international in scope, said McVicker. In this particular case, all the clone cards being used were from European countries. We have identified victims from several countries. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the U.S. Secret Service have been notified, the release said. Both men had visas to enter the United States and had been here since June, the release said. Bladen investigators have determined that the men on at least one occasion traveled from Miami to Chicago and back. Bail for Ch and Ch Salazar was set at $1 million each. Credit card fraud.
Oh, time to do station identification. Would you like to do it?
Sure. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number at 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are
Tina Beatty
and Jessica Bullock, and we are proud to serve you today.
Okay, let me take my jacket off and we'll read Myron Pitt's column today, the title of which is McDougald Hare in Tight Race in District 4. So, the City Council race with one of the more intriguing matchups is District 4, though it hasn't drawn as much attention. That's because incumbent Chalmers Chet McDougald and former councilman D.J. Hare are the only 2 entrants and did not have a primary. As a result, there's no good way to tell who leads the race. But either way, I expect this one to be close. The contest is a rematch. In 2011, Hare, who served 16 years, which is 8 terms, defeated McDougald, who had not run for elected office before. In a low turnout election, Hare received 710 votes to McDougald's 635. In 2013, Hare chose not to run again, in part so he could rehabilitate from severe back problems. McDougald won the seat that year unopposed. The Baptist pastor says he cannot tell who the race favors one way or the other. I'm losing and working like I want to win. The majority black district stretches from Langdon Street in the east, near Fayetteville State University, to Riley Road in the west, which is filled with military families. To compare the candidates, McDougald seems a more nuts and bolts guy, stressing his competence, while Hare goes more for the home-style appeal. I'm a very personable guy, says Hare, who is self-employed and works in real estate. I'll come to your house. I'll sit in the backyard on a bucket. I've done that. I'll sit at your garden. Have a biscuit with people. That's just part of my nature. He says he's approachable and easy to talk to. That's when you really find out people's concerns, he said. McDougald touted his own ability to connect with people while poking at Hare's self-assessment. I'm a representative of the people, he said. I'm not there for myself. He said his initial reason for running was the unresponsiveness of the person who was in the seat before him. He said he did not have one address for mail while living in another place. I don't even know if he lives where he says, McDougald said. He added, I'm not evasive. I am who I am. I'm doing what the people really want me to do. In response, Hare notes that he lives in District 4 on Seabrook Road, and his constituents know where to find him. He receives his mail in a box that is part of a cluster on Filter Plant Drive and has for many years, he said. If it was an issue, he said, the Board of Elections would have made it an issue. As for being unresponsive, I think he said that at the candidates forum, all I can say is, just ask the constituents. The two candidates were asked about the work on the council, of which they were most proud. McDougald touted the Parks and Recreation bond, which he backed and which voters approved. He was also part of the council's unanimous support for a baseball stadium and other economic investment downtown. He cited drastically lower crime numbers, and he and a majority of the council voted for a big expansion of the police force a few years ago. People feel much safer, he said. Hare cited his support for the transit center, which was years in the making and is scheduled to open soon downtown. It replaces a bus transfer center that is little more than a double-wide trailer. He said first seeing the old center really intensified his feelings on the subject. Hare also said he was proud of the Hire Fayetteville First initiative, which he says continues to grow. The initiative helps local businesses get contract work for the city. I was very honored to have been the lead on that, he says. District 4 voters will decide whether McDougald or Hare got the better of the argument. Early voting continues through Saturday and on Election Day, which is November the 7th. Okay, Marlon.
Letters to the Observer. Leave retirement benefits intact. As a member of the federal community who served our country for years, I am deeply concerned that my hard-earned benefits will be cut to offset proposed tax policy changes. I ask my representative and senators to oppose such cuts to the federal community. I base my career in retirement planning on long-standing promised benefit calculations. Any cuts to what I earn break that promise and denigrates the value of public service. Congress is currently debating reform to our tax code. paying for touted middle-class tax relief on the backs of middle-class federal employees and retirees is wrong. My retirement and health benefits were earned through 30 years of hard work. They are not gifts to rescind. Mary Bridgers of Lemon Springs.
Okay. Which one of these editorials do I want to read? Let me start with this one. Smells like you want one. Excuse me. This is Kathleen Parker. Her op-ed piece today is entitled "The Statuary Brawl." So here we go again with the statues. Latest to the vandals goes Teddy Roosevelt, whose bronze likeness astride a horse in front of New York's American Museum of Natural History recently received a splash of red paint upon its base. Now the statue is bleeding, proudly pronounced a group of protesters in claiming credit for the makeover. We did not make it bleed. It is bloody at its very foundation. Good grief. One wonders whether these poseurs know anything at all about the man they've targeted. The 26th president gave us national parks, industrial regulation, and environmental conservationism, among other things. Also, he died almost 100 years ago in 1919. When are these self-important moderns going to get over themselves? The New York vandalism is merely the most recent episode in a protest that gained traction in 2016 by the same groups that also want to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay. What apparently triggered the freelance artists were two other figures, an indigenous American and an African, flanking Roosevelt's horse. The jury is still out about what to do about the statue. Now wait just a minute if I think about this. Indigenous peoples here in this country would have to be the American Indian. There is nobody else that was here before the rest of us. It's like the indigenous people in Australia are the Aborigines, and in New Zealand are the Maoris. So go back to what you're doing, Tina. Okay. The jury is still out about what to do about the statue. Nothing would be a rational option if a panel created by New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio can handle some heat. Roosevelt may not be a civil rights icon like the Reverend Martin Luther King, but he was hardly the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan either. Indeed, in 1905, Roosevelt gave a speech at the New York Republican Party Club that paid tribute to Abraham Lincoln and addressed racial inequality, which Roosevelt said he aimed to change. That this radical social transformation didn't occur within his time or tenure doesn't affirm in itself that he was racist. In the speech, he did abysmally refer to whites as a forward race. But the focus of his address was to echo Lincoln in calling strongly for the raising of minority status. And what about the two non-whites in the statue? First, both men are walking in a proud, dignified manner, suggesting a parade in which the Rough Rider is accompanied by individuals who were part of his life experience. Second, we have to ask, what was the context of the time? In 1901, when this Harvard-educated, wealthy, progressive, worldly Republican New Yorker became president, was he enslaving Indians and blacks? No. Was he hunting extensively in the American West and later in Africa? Yes, quite a lot. Given this record, is it not possible that the other two figures represent his guides or scouts on his American West hunts and African safaris? The statue may be offensive to a few, but by what imperative are their feelings to be considered superior to the broader citizenry's right to not see public property harmed, defaced, or splattered with paint, or some facsimile thereof? Vandalism, contrary to the group's claim that they are performing public art, is the artless tantrum of a childish, self-absorbed mind. Defeating a block of stone or bronze hardly requires courage or, obviously, intellect. Why not come up with something, I don't know, classier? Make an argument. Present facts. Bring passion, but keep a cool head. One could argue, for example, that the protests against Confederate statues are substantively different from the objections to Roosevelt's monument. Given that most Civil War statues in the South were erected during the Civil Rights Movement, inarguably they memorialize not Southern courage but Jim Crow, a cowardly, despicable period of state-sponsored terrorism against blacks who had the audacity to insist upon equality under the law. Confederate General Robert E. Lee, who hated the idea of memorials to the war, would likely be happy for his statues to settle in the statuary hall. As for Roosevelt, one only wishes the swashbuckling warrior president could dismount for a few minutes and teach his vandals some manners. I'm guessing, but I suspect his two companions would lend him a hand. And that, again, was Kathleen Parker's column today. Okie dokie.
Kemers ordered to stop discharging 3 chemicals. The state has ordered a Bladen County plant to stop releasing 3 chemicals similar to a potentially harmful compound into the Cape Fear River, state officials said Monday. The State Department of Environmental Quality told Kemers to capture wastewater that includes what are known as fluorinated compounds, based on an Environmental Protection Agency report, according to a statement released by the department. The report determined that the compounds were coming from manufacturing areas at the company's plant in Bladen County, the statement said. The EPA report, which also was released on Monday, included an analysis of industrial processed wastewater samples that state officials collected at the plant on September 18th. The samples were tested for Gen X, 2 Nafion byproducts, and 3 other fluorinated compounds, according to the statement. Based on the report's findings, DEQ ordered Kemers to capture and divert the industrial processed wastewater from the manufacturing area so the wastewater can be taken out of state for incineration, the statement said. Kemers will continue to capture and remove Gen X from other areas inside the facility as it had been doing at DEQ's request since last summer. Statements have linked Gen X to testicular, pancreatic, and liver cancer in animals, but it is not known whether those effects are the same in humans. Little is known about it in the other compounds. Gen X is used to make non-stick coatings on cookware and for other purposes. Kemers agreed to stop discharging the chemical into the river after the state started investigating the compound in June. The investigation started after news broke that a team of researchers discovered elevated levels of the chemical in the river. The compound has since been discovered in private wells near the plant, which is off NC 87 in the Cumberland County line. The company agreed in September to stop discharging the 2 Nafion byproducts as part of a partial consent order signed by a Bladen County resident Superior Court judge. Nafion is a brand name for the company's membranes products. According to Kemers officials, Nafion products are used in energy storage, fuel cells, chemical production, waste recovery, and other applications. DEQ will take appropriate steps if the company fails to meet the state's demands to stop releasing Gen X and other fluorinated compounds into the Cape Fear River. The statement said DEQ continues to elevate all of Kemers' waste streams in its review of the Kemers application to renew the company's wastewater discharge permit. Kemers officials did not immediately reply to an email seeking comment.
Okay. I'm looking for the obit. Not cover up in a minute. Okay. This is the Observer's opinion today. They always have one editorial opinion as well. And this is about Mueller's net catches 3 with Trump ties. After a weekend of media speculation and anxiety in Washington, Special Counsel Robert Mueller unsealed indictments Monday in his office's probe of Russian influence in the 2016 presidential election. 3 people affiliated with Donald Trump's campaign were named. International political operative Paul Manafort, who was Donald Trump's first campaign chair, was the big fish netted. He and his business partner Rick Gates face charges that include money laundering and conspiracy against the U.S. Many political analysts had predicted Manafort would be named, since it was well known he was under federal investigation. But legal experts cautioned that his work related to the Ukraine could be the focus of the allegations against him, not the 2016 campaign. It is the person from the second headline of the day that might cause more problems down the road for the president. The indictment revealed that George Papadopoulos, a foreign policy advisor to the campaign, pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about contacts he had with a Russia-connected professor. The unnamed professor offered dirt on election opponent Hillary Clinton, court documents state. Trump, via his favorite medium, Twitter, spun the Manafort indictment as involving actions from years ago. Well, let's read that one again. Trump, via his favorite medium, Twitter, spun the Manafort indictment as involving actions from years ago. But that tactic doesn't work as well when it comes to Papadopoulos. According to documents, the information from the professor shot to Papadopoulos included thousands of emails hacked by Russians from Democratic officials' accounts. Those emails later went public. Trump's campaign officials denied knowing anything about the matter. Unsealed documents indicate several senior members of the campaign were aware of Papadopoulos' meetings with the Russians, though it is not clear whether they knew specifically about the emails. Good work, one unnamed advisor is reported to have said to Papadopoulos when he handed over the information. Papadopoulos, the document says, tried to convince Trump to deleting his Facebook account, which had some communications with the Russians, and using a new phone number. Now, why would they do that? Let's read that again. Papadopoulos, the documents say, tried to conceal his tracks by deleting his Facebook account, which had some communications with the Russians, and using a new phone number. His plea brings renewed scrutiny to a meeting in June of last year when Donald Trump Jr. and other advisors met with Russians who said they could provide damaging information about Clinton. Any Democratic politicos tempted to celebrate Mueller's unsigned findings on Monday were unable to find Mueller's letters. Unsealed findings on Monday were forced to hit the pause button by news that broke later in the day. Powerful Democratic lobbyist Tony Podesta resigned from the firm bearing his name. The Podesta Group was connected to Manafort, with the same profit that helped promote a Ukrainian political party favorable to Russian President Vladimir Putin. The lobbying firm was mentioned only incidentally in court documents, but Podesta's unexpected resignation increased speculation that he may also be in the Justice Department's crosshairs. No charges against him have been filed or unsealed Tuesday. Podesta's brother John was chair of Clinton's campaign and worked in the administration of President's brother and Obama and Clinton. The news on the Podesta Group showed the complexity of Mueller's sprawling investigation into possible Russian collusion in the election. Monday may have been the first wave in what could be a lengthy gallery of defendants. Well,
we have a pretty long one here.
Okay, we have enough time. Yeah, we got what? 3, 5, 8 minutes?
Yeah.
You should be alright.
Bergdahl, walking away was a horrible mistake. Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl on Monday became emotional as he recalled the constant torture and beatings he endured for nearly 5 years as a prisoner of the Taliban. Bergdahl, who gave unsworn testimony during his sentencing hearing on Fort Bragg, spoke for about 2 hours. He paused at one point to get a tissue and to compose himself before continuing his testimony. Bergdahl walked off his remote post in Afghanistan in 2009 and was subsequently captured and held by the Taliban for half a decade. He pleaded guilty October 16 to desertion and misbehavior before the enemy and could serve life in prison. His sentencing hearing began last week on Fort Bragg. In the military justice system, unsworn testimony can be offered only by victims or by those accused.
No, they're not.
It is not subject to cross-examination.
I don't
In
have
a
a...
prepared statement, Bergdahl said he was sorry and never intended for anyone to get hurt looking for him. He said walking away was a horrible mistake. I'm extremely relieved my platoon mates made it back, he said, reading from his statement. He added that he was thankful for the determination and sacrifice of those service members who were injured searching for him. He said he understood his apologies could never take away their pain. Bergdahl's unsworn statement followed powerful testimony from Shannon Allen, the wife of Master Sergeant Mark Allen, who was shot in the head while searching for Bergdahl in the July 2009 mission. Shannon, who was called as a witness for the prosecution, testified that her role has changed from wife to caregiver of her husband. Her husband suffered a traumatic brain injury and is confined to a wheelchair and unable to communicate. Bergdahl, who said he grew up reading books about survivalists, said he joined the Army to gain life experience and pay for college. He said he first enlisted in the Coast Guard in 2006 but was washed out when he had a panic attack during basic training. Bergdahl said he thought he'd make it through the Army. Bergdahl, a rifleman with the 25th Infantry Division's 1st Battalion, 501st Infantry Regiment, walked off Observation Post Mess in Afghanistan during his first deployment. He recalled how men on motorcycles with AK-47 rifles captured him as he walked through the desert. He was moved to different locations for about a year, he said. He tried several times to escape. He said his hands and legs were shackled to a post of makeshift bed. He said his torso and legs would be lit with copper cables and the bottoms of his feet burned with matches. He was constantly shown videos of executions and said his captors also threatened to cut off his head. After an escape that lasted 8 days, Bergdahl said he was captured and moved to an area he had previously been held. This time he said he was put in a cage. Captain General Norvell, one of Bergdahl's lawyers, asked Bergdahl how he passed the time for 5 years. Bergdahl had been quietly crying. "I need a moment," he said, reaching for a tissue. Bergdahl paused for a few moments, trying to find a way to escape, he said. Beyond the torture, Bergdahl said the worst part of captivity was his deteriorating health. He didn't receive proper nutrition and was confined to small spaces. He had a hard time controlling diarrhea, he said. He was permitted to wash himself in his clothing once every 3 to 4 months. The worst was the constant deterioration of everything, the constant pain of my body falling apart, he said. Bergdahl said he still suffers from the pain inflicted during his time in captivity and from at least one escape attempt when he fell off a cliff, injured the left side of his body. Certain smells and sounds trigger flashbacks, he said. Prosecution rests. Early Monday, the court heard from Shannon Allen, whose husband was injured on a search mission. Defense lawyers objected to her testimony prior to her taking the stand, saying it was unnecessary since Allen's doctor testified about the soldier's injuries. The judge limited Shannon Allen's testimony to the day-to-day impact of his health and present condition of his life. Shannon Allen said her husband, whom she married in 2006, is unable to wash or dress himself. He must eat through a feeding tube that pumps directly into his stomach, she said. In a short video played in court, Shannon Allen explained how she gets her husband out of bed using a ceiling pulley system each morning. Sometimes a nurse helps. The process, including a shower and getting dressed, can take up to 90 minutes, she said. His emotions are limited to smiling, laughing, and crying, she said. His injuries have changed their relationship from marital to caretaker, Shannon Allen said. It's taken away all the interaction, really, she said. The injuries also have eliminated the couple's ability to have more children, she said. Shannon Allen said her husband will sit with her and their 9-year-old daughter Journey as she does homework. He is not always able to attend events for their children, she said. Journey, who was 13 months when Allen was shot, likes to climb on her father's wheelchair and sit on his lap, Shannon Allen said. I do my best to keep him involved in his daily activities, she said. Defense lawyers did not question Shannon Allen. As she exited the courtroom, she looked straight ahead and did not look at Bergdahl. Also Monday, Raquel Mascarenas III, Allen's attending physician at the Tampa VA hospital, testified via telephone. Mascarenas, who treats patients with traumatic brain injury, said when Allen was admitted he was in a vegetative state, meaning his eyes were open but he was not speaking. It took 6 or 7 months for Allen to move from that state to a minimally functional, he said. Portions of Allen's brain, including the frontal lobes that control tasks such as speaking and temporal lobes that handle memory, had to be removed, the doctor said. That means Allen cannot do simple things, such as talk, and likely doesn't remember what happened to him from day to day. Mascarenas said Allen will be severely disabled for the remainder of his life. Defense lawyers did not question Mascarenas. The government concluded in presentation of evidence around 11 a.m. The defense began its case Monday afternoon. Early Monday, the military judge said he would not dismiss the charges against Bergdahl because of comments made by President Donald Trump, but he said he would consider them during mitigation as he prepares to sentence the soldier. The judge, Colonel Jeffrey Nance, called Trump's comments condemning, but said they don't hinder his ability to rule over the case. He denied the defense's renewed motion to dismiss charges of desertion and misbehavior before the enemy. I'm completely unaffected by Trump's comments, Nance said. During his presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly called Bergdahl a traitor and suggested he receive a harsh punishment. The court moved into a closed session to discuss classified material around 3 p.m. The sentencing hearing is scheduled to resume at 9 a.m. today.
Okay, let's do the tape identification, and then I'll do the obits if it's 11 o'clock.
Okay.
I'll have to wait, and they'll have to come in.
All right. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are
Tina Beatty
and Jessica Bullock, and we are proud to serve you today.
Indeed we are. It's time for the obituaries, but first we read the death notices, and this is deaths that have been reported, and the upcoming editions of the Fayetteville Observer will have more obituary information. Okay, from Cumberland County, U.S. Army retired Staff Sergeant Robert Jr. Leonard, 66 of Fayetteville, Sullivan's Highland Funeral Service and Crematory. Alfred Eugene Jean Reynolds, 78 of Fayetteville, Jernigan Warren Funeral Home. Emilio Tito Merle, 92 of Fayetteville, Herring Funeral Care and Cremations. Geraldine J. Williams, pastor, 75 of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. James Alton Farmer, 81 of Fayetteville, Jernigan Warren Funeral Home. Symere James McMillan, infant, of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Anna L. Scott, 65, of Fayetteville, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary. Sula Whitted, 90, of Fayetteville, Weissman Mortuary. From the region, Charles Thomas Folk, 76, of Wagram, Richard Bowles Funeral Service. Jose A. Montes Crescioni, 102, of Sanford, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary. And Loretta Faulkner Malloy, 51, of Shannon, Lafayette Funeral Home. And on to the obituaries. From Wade, North Carolina, Mr. Ronald L. Williams, age 67, of Wade, died Sunday, October 29th, at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center. A memorial service will be held Wednesday, November 1st, at 4 p.m. in Center Baptist Church, with Pastor Joe Hickson officiating. The family will receive friends from 2 p.m. until 4 p.m., 2 hours prior to the service, in Center Baptist Church in Wade. In lieu of flowers, the family requests memorials be made to Center Baptist Church, 4210 Center Church Road, Wade, North Carolina, 28395, and condolences may be made to cromartiemiller.com. From Fayetteville, Joan Ferroni Kelty, 85, of Fayetteville, died Thursday, October 19th. A graveside service will be held on Wednesday at 10 a.m. at Sand Hill State Veterans Cemetery, and Rogers and Brees Funeral Home in charge of arrangements there. From Fayetteville, retired U.S. Air Force Tech Sergeant Stanley J. Podobinski, 92, passed away on Saturday, October 28th. He is survived by his children, Delma. Oops, excuse me, I'm not supposed to read that part, am I? I'm sorry. A private family service will be held at a later date. From Fayetteville, Dr. Walter O. Whitfield, 82, of 4388 Garnet Drive in Fayetteville, died Wednesday, October 25th. Funeral Thursday, 11:30 a.m., New Missionary Baptist Church in Fayetteville. Visitation at the church. Wednesday, 5 to 7 p.m., burial. Now wait a minute. Let's read that again, because that doesn't make sense. Okay, if the funeral's on Thursday at 11:30 a.m., sometimes these things get turned around. At the New Mission Baptist Church. The visitation is at the church on Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and burial will be in Sand Hill State Veterans Cemetery, Fort Bragg, and Herring Funeral Care and Cremations in charge there. From Fayetteville, Joseph Higgins, 71, of Fayetteville, died Thursday, October 19th. Funeral is Wednesday, noon, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary Chapel. Viewing, Cunningham and Sons Mortuary Chapel, Tuesday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m., with burial in Sand Hills State Veterans Cemetery and Cunningham and Sons Mortuary in charge of all the arrangements. From Pine Bluff, Miss Catherine Hill Adams of Pine Bluff passed away at her home on Friday, October 27th, at the age of 76. A private memorial service will be held later. Condolences may be made at crumplerfuneralhome.com. From Fairmont, Pocahontas Killens Thompson, 90, of Fairmont, died Saturday, October 28th. The funeral will be Thursday noon, First Baptist Church, Fairmont. Visitation, Hills Chapel, on Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Burial in Gardens of Faith in Lumberton, Hills Funeral Home in charge. From Roseboro, Elizabeth Earldine Brock, 83, of Roseboro, died Sunday, October 29th. Funeral is Wednesday, 2 p.m., White Oak Baptist Church. Visitation, Crumpler Honeycutt Funeral Home, Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. Burial, Grandview Memorials Park, Crumpler Honeycutt in charge there. From McCall, South Carolina, Kathy Elaine Kelly Luther, 61 of McCall, South Carolina, formerly of Laurinburg, died Saturday, October 28th. A memorial service will be held Thursday at 7 p.m. in Richard Bowles Funeral Service Chapel, and visitation at the funeral home after the service Thursday. Richard Bowles Funeral Services in charge there. And from Lumberton, the Reverend Irma Haley, 91 of Lumberton, died Monday, October 30th. And that's all the information we have. But Colvin Funeral Home in Lumberton's in charge, so if you need a little bit more, you can probably call them. And the last one today is from Fairmont. Mr. Jovis, Joe Hunt, 64 of Fairmont, died Friday, October 27th. His funeral is Wednesday at 3 p.m. at New Bethel Holiness Methodist Church. Visitation, New Bethel Holiness Methodist Church, Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Burial, New Bethel Church Cemetery. And I'm looking to see. It's not telling me. He died Friday, funeral Wednesday, New Bethel Methodist Church, visitation, New Bethel. There's not given me any information about the funeral home, so I suspect if you need that, you'll have to call the church in this instance, which apparently is New Bethel Holiness Methodist Church in Fairmont. So there we go.
Okay.
Time for Billy Graham. You have to do it. You have to do it first.
Heaven not just something to look forward to as death approaches. Question: I don't believe in life after death. This life is all there is, and once you die, that's the end. Heaven is just a myth that people dreamed up so they have something to look forward to. PL. Answer: your email deeply saddened me because you have absolutely nothing to look forward to as you grow older and death approaches. A life without hope is a life without joy, no matter how much we try to disguise it. Tragically, you are like those of whom the Bible speaks, without hope and without God in the world. Ephesians 2:12. But life doesn't have to be this way. The reason is because God loves us and He wants to give us hope. Hope right now and hope for all eternity. Heaven is not a myth, nor is eternal life something people dreamed up so their lives wouldn't be so hopeless. Nor is death the end, because within each of us is a soul or spirit that death cannot kill. How do I know this is true? I know it because of Jesus Christ. If Jesus were only another man, if Jesus' tombs still held his body, then you might be right. We'd have little reason to hope. But Jesus wasn't just another religious teacher or philosopher. He was God in human flesh, and on the third day after his death on the cross, he rose from the dead and defeated death forever. Because of him, we can have hope. Don't let doubt or sin or anything else keep you from Christ. Instead, look with an open heart and mind at Jesus as he is found in the Gospels. When you do, you'll discover the greatest truth anyone can ever know. God loves you, and Christ came to give you the gift of eternal life. Readers can write to the Reverend Billy Graham at Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, 1 Billy Graham Parkway, Charlotte, North Carolina 28201, or call 877-2-GRAHAM. The website for Billy Graham Evangelistic Association is at billygraham.org.
Okay, and here's Dear Abby, last year I had a baby with one of my college professors. He left me 10 days before our daughter was born and has never met her. I chased him through family court, and he gives me the bare minimum in-state ordered support. Recently, I spotted him advertising himself on a dating website as a loving man and describing how he loves his first daughter with no mention of ours. He has 2 other children, a girl and a boy. How do I move past this? A part of me is angry for her, but I'm also angry for myself. I'm in therapy, but seeing him on a dating website describing himself as a good person, when in truth he's a sociopath, has reopened wounds I thought had closed months ago. And it's signed Open Wounds. Abby says, Dear Open Wounds, thank you for writing to me, but this is a question you should be addressing with your psychotherapist. Sometimes it takes multiple doses of medicine to cure an ailment, but the longer you allow this man to occupy real estate in your head, the harder it will be for you to get on with your life. Call your therapist. And the next letter, Dear Abby, I love my fiancé with all my heart. We have good friends and family. The problem is my fiancé loves to talk. He talks a lot. I've known this since I met him, but because I don't talk much, it doesn't bother me. I like listening to his stories. However, I can see our friends getting annoyed because of his constant talking. It also happens when we are around his family, and they usually end up treating him badly for it. Is there any way I can gently talk to him about this so he's aware that he is irritating people? I don't want to hurt him, but I also don't want to annoy people. I'm also afraid it may affect his employment. His co-workers get that same look on their faces when he's talking that his family members do when they are annoyed with him. And it's signed, Engaged to a Big Talker. Abby says, Dear Engaged, your fiancé may have difficulty picking up on social cues, which is why he doesn't notice that others become annoyed as he drones on and on. You should absolutely point out to him what you have noticed and tell him you are concerned that it may affect his employment. Then suggest he discuss his compulsive talking with a licensed mental health professional. This is not to imply there is anything wrong with him, but rather that he may benefit from professional help in recognizing the social cues he is missing. And as a footnote here, a note to parents of young children, tonight is the night when we witches and goblins will be out trick-or-treating. Please supervise them so they'll be safe. Happy Halloween, everyone. Love, Abby.
Horoscope time. Born today, you are one of the most keenly and analytical individuals born under your sign, and yet your most fluent intellectual language is not that of facts, but rather one of human dynamics. Indeed, you seem to have your finger on the pulse of humanity, and you can explain better than most why this person does this, why that person does that, and why everyone does or does not have basic things in common. Scorpio, October 23rd to November 21st. Despite warnings you've given, someone is likely to cross the line and challenge you in a way that requires you to think twice. Sagittarius, November 22nd to December 21st. Others are likely to notice that you have much more to offer than you first indicated, and a door may be open to you very soon. Capricorn, December 22nd to January 19th. You may think you're running out of ideas, but very soon you'll be inspired by what happens as a result of a chance encounter. Aquarius, January 20th to February 18th. You're confident that you are in good hands today, no matter what may happen either on the home front or at the workplace. Pisces, February 19th through March 20th. Despite indications that dangers are minimized, you'll still want to remain vigilant. One last threat may present itself after nightfall. Aries, March 21st to April 19th. You'll be invited to share your innermost thoughts about a very tricky situation. What you offer is more than insight, it's a roadmap. Taurus, April 20th to May 20th. What you are investigating is likely to take on a whole new importance as you realize just who was involved and why. Gemini, May 21st to June 20th. Others may suspect there is more going on with you than meets the eye, and indeed you are perhaps busier than you anticipated. Cancer, June 21st to July 22nd. You can strike a deal with a former rival that sets you both on a course of productivity, even though you are not cooperating. Leo, July 23rd to August 22nd. You may say or do something today that proves rather controversial, but why? You're following your instincts. Virgo, August 23rd to September 22nd. Any attempts to distance yourself from perceived improprieties today are likely to fall short. Why not address them head on? Libra, September 23rd through October 22nd. You are trying to take advantage of a situation that is still in flux. You will certainly have to wait until you have the final numbers. That's the end of the horoscopes.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. This was about a council meeting. I know you're all thrilled. This is by Steve Devane. The Fayetteville City Council took no action and only briefly discussed Monday an offer from Cumberland County officials to let the city run a joint 911 call center. In other action, the council agreed at its work session to discuss at its next regular meeting whether to spend more than $200,000 on assessments of 4 private dams that were damaged by Hurricane Matthew in October 2016. It cost that much to have the dams assessed? $200,000? Good grief. County officials surprised Fayetteville leaders on Thursday with a proposal that would give operation of the joint 911 call center to the city. City and county leaders have long agreed on the need for a joint 911 center, but have been at odds over which government should run the facility. Glenn Adams, chairman of the County Board of Commissioners, made the offer at a meeting of the 911 task force, which includes city and county officials. He said county commissioners had agreed to let the city operate the center. At the city council's work session Monday, Deputy City Manager Christoph Bauer presented a draft of an agreement for the center based largely on the 9 sections of the county proposal. Bauer said he contacted county officials about the funding portion of the proposal. The county proposal says funding for the center will be based on the share of population as determined by state data. The populations of Hope Mills and Spring Lake would be included in the county's share according to the proposal. Bauer said county officials told him that they are still working on details of the funding issue. Councilman Bill Crisp said he had questions about the funding part of the proposal, which he called kind of vague. The City Council will talk about the agreement again once this funding issue is settled. Mayor Nat Robertson said the city wants to have the agreement finished in time for the city to apply for a grant from the North Carolina 911 Board, and the deadline for that is December 15th. The county applied to the board for $15 million that would help build the $30 million center, but was denied in August. Board officials said the application was denied because the paperwork didn't make clear that the center would consolidate the county and city operations. Damaged dams, that's the next item. In other action, at Monday's work session, the council voted 7-3 in favor of moving forward with assessments of damaged private dams at Strickland Bridge Lake in the Aaron Lake subdivision and 2 in the Rayconda subdivision. Crisp and Councilman Chalmers, McDougald, and Ted Moan were not in favor of the city. Lost my place. Okay. City officials have sent letters to owners and residents at 4 other private damaged dams asking if they want to petition for assessments. The private dams at Strickland Bridge Road in the Aaron Lake subdivision, 2 in Rayconda, and that's what I read that, didn't I? The vote means the council will consider the issue at its meeting November 13th. Crisp asked how the city could build a road over a private dam, then say the traffic did not contribute to damage that caused it to fail. There's something inherently wrong with that conclusion, he said. Crisp also questioned how the city could annex houses but not the roads the houses are on. We annex them, yet we're failing in our obligation and responsibility to them, he said. The council also received an update on the city's stormwater program. City officials estimate that the city might need as much as 215 million in stormwater drainage improvements. Whoa. McDougald asked about changes that had been made to Johnson Street. He didn't like that ditches had been installed along the street, which is often used by pedestrians. It's a poor excuse for what this city is doing, he said. McDougald questioned whether the ditches would have been used in more economically advantaged areas. We just took poor folk and kicked them to the curb, he said. City Manager Doug Hewitt disagreed. This staff, your staff, does not discriminate against people, he said. Well, they had a quite contentious meeting, didn't they? My goodness.
Have some support groups. Tuesday. Adult Children of Alcoholics Codependency, 1 to 2 p.m. Friends and Recovery Group, Snyder Memorial Baptist Church, Room B10335, 701 Westmount Drive. Contact number for that is 988-6858. Al-Anon Serenity Seekers Group, noon, Snyder Memorial Baptist Church, Room B1035, 701 Westmount Drive. Contact number 850-1444. Take off pounds sensibly, 5:30 p.m. West End Baptist Church Fellowship Hall, 805 West Drive, Lumberton, 5:30 p.m. Coates United Methodist Church, 288 E South Street, 6 p.m. Riley Road Presbyterian Church, 208 South Riley Road, 6 p.m. College Lakes Recreation Center, 4945 Rose Hill Road, 6:30 p.m. Dominion Church, 1874 Cedar Creek Road. Contact number is 800-932-8677 or go to tops.org. Alcoholics Anonymous, 7 a.m., noon, 5:30, 8, 11 p.m., 626 Sandalwood Drive, noon, 5:30, 7 p.m., 604 German Street, noon, 1601 Rayford Road, also at noon. MT 2357 Quartermasters Fort Bragg, noon, 6:30 p.m. 40 East 1st Street, Lumberton, 5:30 p.m. Marvin United Methodist Church, 6740 Highway 87 South, 6:30 p.m. Detour Cafe, 6781 Camden Road, 7:30 p.m. 2704 East Broad Street, Elizabethtown, 7-8 p.m. 326 Martin Luther King Drive, Maxton, 8 p.m. Trinity United Methodist Church, 6974 Rayford Road, 8 p.m. First Baptist Church, 301 North Main Street, Fairmount, 8 p.m. 122 West 3rd Street, Red Springs, 8 p.m. 705B Wesley Pines Drive, Lumberton, 8 p.m. Bladen County Hospital. Hotlines 678-8733 or 678-8002. Al-Anon, 6:30 p.m. 401 East 1st Street, Lumberton, 7 p.m. 320 Hay Street. Contact number 678-8002. Narcotics Anonymous. To find weekly meeting times and locations, call 866-418-9500 or go to crna.org. Diabetes Management Clinic, 8 a.m., noon. Better Health of Cumberland County, 1422 Bragg Boulevard. Contact phone number is 483-7534.
We're going to get somebody to come and read with you. Now I have to leave early. I have to go to a funeral. So I will see you next week, I hope.
All right.
Bye, everybody. See you next week on the radio.
Thank you so much, Tina.
You're welcome.
Court bars Trump from reversing military policy. Washington, a federal judge on Monday barred President Donald Trump's administration from proceeding with plans to exclude transgender people from military service. U.S. District Judge Colin Caudill ruled that the transgender service members who had sued over Trump's policy were likely to win their lawsuit. She directed a return to the situation that existed before Trump announced his new policy this summer, saying the administration had provided no solid evidence for why a ban should be implemented. Trump had ordered a reinstatement of the long-standing policy that barred transgender individuals from joining the military. Service members who were revealed to be transgender were subject to discharge. Under President Barack Obama, that policy was changed last year to allow transgender people to serve openly. The Trump administration may appeal Caudill's decision, but for now, the proposed ban remains unenforceable under Caudill's preliminary injunction. We disagree with the court's ruling and are currently evaluating the next steps, said Justice Department spokesman Laura Ezram. She reiterated the department's view that the lawsuit was premature because the Pentagon was still in the process of reviewing how the transgender policy might evolve. One of the attorneys handling the lawsuit, Shannon Venter of the National Center for Lesbian Rights, said the ruling was an enormous relief to his clients. Their lives have been devastated since Trump's first tweeted he was reinstating the ban. Ministers said they are now able to serve on equal terms with everyone else. Trump announced on Twitter in July that the government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. He followed with an August memo directing the Pentagon to extend indefinitely a ban on transgender individuals joining the military and gave Defense Secretary Jim Mattis 6 months to come up with a policy on how to address those who are currently serving. Under the Obama administration, the Department of Defense had announced in 2016 that service members could not be discharged solely based on their gender identity. Transgender individuals were to be allowed to enlist in the military in June of 2017. A timeline initially delayed under the Trump administration to January 1st, 2018. Minister said the new court ruling means they will not be able to enlist as of that date. The Trump administration had asked the court to dismiss the lawsuit. Caudill refused to do so, and Mentor said it's possible the case will be going to trial. One issue not directly addressed in Monday's ruling was whether federal funds should be used to pay for sexual reassignment surgeries for members of the military. The administration had sought to prohibit such payments. Caudill said she didn't have a jurisdiction to rule on the issue because none of the plaintiffs in the case established a likelihood of being impacted by prohibition. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts today are
Jessica
and Jessica Bullock, and we are proud to serve you today.
Okay, read the title. Guilty plea. Indictments in probe. Papadopoulos admits to lying to FBI while Manafort Gates plead not guilty to charges include conspiracy against USA by Chad Day and Eric Tucker. Washington. A former campaign advisor to President Donald Trump has pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russians. Special counsel Robert Mueller said Monday, while former campaign manager Paul Manafort and Manafort's business partner pleaded not guilty to felony charges of conspiracy against the United States and other counts. The guilty plea by former advisor George Papadopoulos marked the first criminal case that cites interactions between Trump campaign associates and Russian intermediates. During the 2016 presidential campaign, the developments ushered Mueller's sprawling investigation into a new phase with felony charges and possible prison sentences for key members of the Trump team, including Manafort, who led the campaign during critical months, and Rick Gates, a campaign aide. Court papers also revealed that Papadopoulos was told about the Russians possessing dirt on Democrat Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. On April 26, 2016, well before it became public that the Democratic National Committee and Clinton campaign Chairman John Podesta's emails had been hacked, Papadopoulos has been cooperating with investigators. According to the court papers, a potentially ominous sign for others in the Trump orbit who might be implicated by his statements. Papadopoulos' lawyers hinted strongly in a statement Monday that their client has testimony to provide. During the daily press briefing, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders downplayed Papadopoulos' role in the campaign, saying it was extremely limited. He was not paid by the campaign, Sanders said, adding later, any actions that he took would have been on his own. She said the White House has had indications that Mueller's investigation would conclude soon. The president quickly tweeted about the allegations against Manafort, saying that the alleged crimes were years ago and insisting there was no conclusion between his campaign and Russia. He added, as he has a number of times recently, why aren't Crook, Hillary, and the Dems the focus? Manafort and Gates appeared in federal court in Washington and pleaded not guilty to all charges. Manafort and Gates were both released on home confinement. Manafort was freed on a $10 million bond meant to guarantee his future court appearances. Gates' bond was $5 million. Outside the courthouse, Manafort attorney Kevin Downing attacked the charges, saying there is no evidence that Mr. Manafort or Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government. Papadopoulos' plea occurred on October the 5th and was unsealed Monday. In court papers, he admitted to lying to FBI agents about the nature of his interactions with foreign nationals who thought had close connections to senior Russian government officials. Those interactions included speaking with Russian intermediaries who were attempting to line up meeting between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin and offering dirt on Clinton. The court filings don't provide details on the emails or whom Papadopoulos may have told about the Russian government effort. The FBI Papadopoulos about his Russian connections on January 27th, a week after Trump's inauguration. The interview predates Mueller's appointment, but was part of the FBI probe into Russian election interference that he has taken over. Papadopoulos was arrested over the summer at Dulles International Airport and has since met with the government on numerous occasions to provide information and answers questions The separate charges against Manafort and Rick Gates contend the men acted as unregistered foreign agents for Ukraine interests. The indictment also includes other financial counts involving tens of millions of thousands routed through offshore accounts. Manafort's indictment doesn't reference the Trump campaign or many allegations about coordination between the Kremlin and the president's aides to influence the outcome of the election in Trump's favor. The indictment does allege a criminal conspiracy was continuing through February of this year. After Trump had taken office, the indictment filed in federal court in Washington accuses both Manafort and Gates of funneling payments through foreign companies and bank accounts as part of their political work in Ukraine. The two men surrendered. The two men surrendered to federal authorities Monday and were expected in court later in the day to face the charges brought by Mueller's team. The indictment lays out 12 counts including conspiracy against the United States, conspiracy to launder money, acting as an unregistered foreign agent, making false statements, and several charges related to failing to report foreign bank and financial accounts. The indictment alleges the men moved money through hidden bank accounts in Cyprus, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, and the Seychelles. In total, more than 75 million followed through the offshore accounts. According to the indictment, Manafort is accused of laundering more than 18 million. Paul Manafort, President Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, leaves federal district on Monday in Washington after pleading not guilty to federal charges, including conspiracy against the United States. It's pretty interesting.
Alright. It said there are ghosts here. Legend has it these 8 locations in and around Fayetteville are haunted. The Fayetteville area is home to a number of supposedly haunted locations. Here are some of the most well known. Sanford House. The Sanford House on Dick Street is home to the Fayetteville Women's Club, but ghosts are rumored to roam the halls too. The house was built in 1800 and was home to John and Margaret Sanford and their 7 children. John operated a bank downstairs while his family lived above. One of the ghosts is said to be that of Margaret Sanford. She is believed to be checking on her children and her husband even after her death. The second ghost is a young girl in mourning who wanders the hall and the stairway searching for her sweetheart. He was murdered before the Civil War and buried in a secret underground passageway to the Cape Fear River that had its entrance in one of Sanford's bank vaults. According to Nancy Roberts, who devoted a chapter to the story in her illustrated Guide to Ghosts and Mysterious Occurrences in the Old North State. Kyle House. Another famous Fayetteville ghost is said to walk the floors of the Kyle House on Green Street. A history of the house says the ghost is that of Jesse Kyle, a post-Civil War resident who married into the original family. James Kyle Jr., great-great-grandson of the James Kyle who built the house in 1842, said in a 1988 article in the Fayetteville Observer that the ghost is actually that of James Kyle. Kyle, who lived in the house until he was in his 20s, said he experienced his ancestors' ghostly presence twice. The encounter didn't frighten him, he said, but gave him a strange, uneasy feeling nonetheless. Kyle speculated that James started his wanderings when the house passed out of Kyle's hands and was rented for a time. Probably he wasn't satisfied because the family wasn't in the house, Kyle said. Cool Spring Tavern. The Cool Spring Tavern on North Cool Spring Street, downtown, which was built in 1788, has been rumored to host the ghost of North Carolina Governor Richard Caswell. Caswell died in the building while presiding over the state's constitutional convention in November of 1789. The ghost of a young woman with a candle is said to haunt the building too. The young woman was said to be a servant who hanged herself in the attic. Vanderlight. Some people swear that when you stand on the ridge where the old Vander Road crosses the railroad tracks at night and look to the east towards Stedman, you can see a light on the train tracks. According to the story of the Vanderlight, railroad employee Archer Matthews was waiting for the next train when a noise down the tracks got his attention. While he was investigating, Matthews slipped and knocked himself out on the tracks. The next train came along and lopped over his head. Now his ghost wanders the dark tracks looking for his missing hair or whatever causes the noise. Dozens of people over the years claim to have seen the light, with reports going back to the 1930s, but recent sightings have declined, perhaps because the mile lines aren't used anymore, and some say because the Cape Fear High School football stadium and its lights have dimmed the scariness of it. Some have theorized that the light is a result of a phosphorus gas compound somewhere nearby that reacts to produce heat and light. Others have guessed it is from the methane or an electrical charge of some kind based on action on the iron tracks and sandy soil. Others think it is from lights in Stedman. No one, however, can prove it. Hannah Creek. The Cape Fear region is overrun with ghosts who don't know the Civil War is finished. But the ghost soldiers of Hannah Creek, halfway between Bentonville and Four Oaks off US 701 in Johnson County, are perhaps the most famous. According to the story, some of General William T. Sherman's bummers or straggling looters murdered the family of a local Confederate officer. The officer tracked down the culprits in the swamps of Johnson County and pretending to be bummers from Harnett County, captured and killed the group. Their leaders was bound, taken to the cemetery where his victims had been recently buried, then hung in view of their tombstones. In a long-standing story based at least partly in truth of sharp skirmishes in the swamps around Bentonville, and there are enough spooky shadows and sounds coming from the swamps to keep the story alive. Harmony Hall Plantation. The Revolutionary Ware-era house in Bladen County is where a group of ghost hunters once tried to contact the dead. The frame house was built around 1768 by Colonel James A. Richardson on a $12,000 acre tract on the Cape Fear River in White Oak. Robert Chever, volunteer president of the Harmony Hall Foundation, said in a 2010 article in the Fayetteville Observer that some of the home's 250 years worth of history may be manifested in the supernatural. Chever said he has heard accounts of ghostly sightings and may have even experienced them himself. Chever said one visitor reported seeing a ghost figure by a bed in the attic. Some people have said they heard children crying. Chever said he walked into the house once and saw a spinning wheel turning of its own accord. Carolina Civic Center Historic Theater. The Carolina Civic Center Historic Theater, which opened in 1929 and sits at 4th and Chestnut Streets in Lumberton, is reportedly home to several ghosts. Richard Seinfeld, executive director of the Carolina Civic Center Foundation, said in 2012 article in the Observer that patrons have reported seeing a woman walking across the theater's balcony, but he never has. Another spirit allegedly haunts the theater's restrooms, appearing in a mirror behind patrons. The most talked about ghost is Dr. Bean, who practiced medicine in what are now the administrative offices. Seinfeld said there are some discrepancies about the Dr. Bean story. He may have committed suicide in his third-story office or at his home, but his tall figure wearing a long black coat is frequently seen out of the corner of the eye. If he feels that the theater is being in any way disrespected, only then will he begin to be mischievous. Seinfeld said. Patrons have reported being pushed down the stairs. Crew members say they have narrowly missed being hit by falling objects. Last one, Battle of Bentonville. A ghostly reenactment is said to have occurred near the old Harper House near Bentonville, where in March 1865, General Joseph Johnson and his men tried to keep General William T. Sherman and his strong force from joining General Ulysses S. Grant. The farmhouse was commandeered for use as a hospital. 40 years later, two men, Jim Weaver and Joe Lewis, were out possum hunting with their dogs late on a March night. Thinking that his dog had a tree at a possum, Weaver decided to chop down a smaller tree that was in the way. As his axe fell, he saw a bright flash of light from the top of the pine, followed by one flash after another in the woods. He saw the shadowy figures of soldiers carrying old-fashioned rifles and heard the thunder of horses' hooves and as cavalry riders went past. Near where he stood, he watched as a Yankee soldier tried to wrest the flag from a Confederate flag bearer, who fell to the ground bleeding from a stab wound to his shoulder. The hunters fled in fright, rushing past the Harper house, where they saw strange lights shining through the windows. When Weaver related the story of the ghostly reenactment of the battle to a group of Confederate veterans, there was one who knew Weaver was not making the story up. A veteran whose useless left arm was reminded of that night in 1865, when as a 17-year-old he had carried the flag for his unit and suffered a stab wound to his shoulder, as he fought off a Yankee soldier in an effort to retain his unit's flag. That's the end of the ghost findings.
Alright. Jack Frost Nipping at Your Nose, Ever Later, by Seth Borenstein, Washington. Winter is coming later and is leaving even earlier. Across the United States, the year's first freeze has been arriving further and further into the calendar. According to more than a century of measurements from weather stations nationwide, scientists say it is yet another sign of the changing climate, and that it has good and bad consequences for the nation. There could be more fruits and vegetables, and also more allergies and pests. I'm happy about it, said Karen Duncan of Strator, Illinois. Her flowers are in bloom because she's had no frost this year yet. Just as she said, none last year at this time either. On the other hand, she said just last week it was too hot and buggy to go out in late October near Chicago. The trend of ever later first freezes appears to have started around 1980, according to an analysis by the Associated Press of data from 700 weather stations across the U.S. going back to 1895, complied by Ken Conkell, a meteorologist at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Centers for Environmental Information. To look for nationwide trends, Conkell compared the first freeze from each of the 700 stations to the station's average for the 20th century. Some parts of the country experience earlier or later freezes every year, but on average, freezes are coming later. The average first freeze over the last 10 years, from 2007 to 2016, is a week later than the average from 1971 to 1980, which is before Conkell said the trend became noticeable. This year, about 40% of the lower 48 states have had a freeze as of October 23rd, compared to 65% in a normal year, according to Jeff Masters, meteorology director of the private service Weather Underground. Duncan's flowers should be dead by now. According to data from the weather station near her in Ottawa, Illinois, the average first freeze for the 20th century was October the 15th. The normal form 1981 to 2010, based on NOAA computer simulations, was October 19th. Since 2010, the average first freeze is on October the 26th. Last year, the first freeze in Ottawa came on November 12th. Last year was way off the charts nationwide, Conkell said. The average first freeze was 2 weeks later than the 20th century average, and the last frost of spring was 9 days earlier than normal. Overall, the United States freeze season of 2016 was more than a month shorter than the freeze season of 1916. It was most extreme in the Pacific Northwest. origins freeze was 61 days, 2 months shorter than normal. Global warming has helped push the first frost later, Conkle and other scientists said. Also at play, though, are natural short-term changes in air circulation patterns, but they too may be influenced by man-made climate change, they said. This shrinking freeze season is what climate scientists have long predicted, said University of Oklahoma meteorology professor Jason Furtado. A shorter freeze season means a longer growing season and less money spent on heat, but it also hurts some plants that require a certain amount of chill, such as Georgia peaches, said Teresa Cremins, a University of Arizona ecologist. Cremins is an assistant director of the National Phenology Network. Phenology is the study of the seasons and how plants and animals adapt to timing changes. Pests that attack trees and spread diseases aren't being killed off as early as they normally would be, Kremen said. In New England, many trees aren't changing colors as vibrantly as they normally do, or used to, because some take cues for when to turn the temperature, said Boston University biology professor Richard Primack. Clusters of the late emerging monarch butterflies are being found further north than normal for this time of the year and are unlikely to survive their migration to Mexico. Kevin Trenberg, a climate scientist at the National Center for Atmospheric Research, said naturally variability, especially in El Nino, made last year exceptional for an early freeze, but it represents the kind of conditions that will be more routine in a decade or two because of man-made climate change. The long-term consequences are really negative, said Primack, because shorter winters and hotter temperatures are also expected to lead to rising seas that cause worse flooding during heavy storms. In suburban Boston, Primack and his wife are still eating lettuce, tomatoes, and green beans from their garden, and they are getting fresh figs off their backyard tree almost daily. These fig trees should be asleep, Primack said. Jack Frost, Nipping at Your Nose, Ever Later, by Seth Bronstein.
American Indian activist Dennis Banks dies at 80. Dennis Banks, a co-founder of the American Indian Movement and a leader of the 1973 Wounded Knee occupation, has died. His family announced Monday he was 80 years old. Banks was one of several activists, who founded the American Indian Movement in Minneapolis in 1968, and he was a leader of AIM's armed takeover of Wounded Knee on the Pine Ridges Reservation in South Dakota in 1973, in a protest against both the tribal and U.S. governments. The village has been the site of massacre by U.S. soldiers in 1890 that left an estimated 300 Indians dead. The occupiers held federal agents at bay for 71 days. Banks died Sunday night, his family wrote on his Facebook page. He had developed pneumonia following heart surgery, and his family said they honored his wishes not to be put on life support. Daughter Errol Banks told the Associated Press the family would have more to say after a family meeting Monday. Banks, whose Ojibwe, if I'm messing that up, I know I am, name was now Wukami, lived near the town of Federal Dam on the Leech Lake Reservation in northern Minnesota. His family said that as Banks took his last breath, son Manoa Banks sang him 4 songs for his journey. All the family who were present prayed over him and said our individual goodbyes, the family said. Then we proudly sang him the AIM song as his final send-off. Banks and fellow AIM leader Russell Means faced charges stemming from the Wounded Knee occupation, but a judge threw out the case. However, Banks spent 18 months in prison in the 1980s after being convicted for rioting and assault for a protest in Custer, South Dakota, earlier in 1973. He avoided prosecution on those charges for several years because California Governor Jerry Brown refused to extradite him, and the Onondaga Nation in New York gave him sanctuary.
Storm Slam Northeast leaves 1.5 million without power by Dave Collins. Hartford Con. A severe storm-packing hurricane forced wind gusts and soaking rain swept through the Northeast early Monday, knocking out power for nearly 1.5 million homes and businesses, and forcing hundreds of schools to close in New England. Falling trees knocked down power lines across the region, and some utility companies warned customers power could be out for days. Trees also fell onto homes and vehicles, but no serious injuries were reported. New England got the brunt of the storm, which brought sustained winds of up to 50 miles per hour in spots. A gust of 130 miles per hour was reported at the Mount Washington Observatory in New Hampshire, while winds hit 82 miles per hour in Mashpee on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. The storm left 450,000 New Hampshire residents without power at its peak and produced wind gusts of 78 miles per hour, emergency officials said. Emergency Management Director Perry Plummer said the outrage was the state's fourth largest. Maine also was hit hard, with 492,000 homes and businesses losing electricity, surpassing the peak number from an infamous 1998 ice storm. The Portland International Jetport recorded a wind gust of 69 miles per hour, and the Amtrak Downeaster service concealed a morning run due to down trees on the tracks. Republican Maine Gov. Paul LePage issued Observer. Your radio hosts have been Jessica and
Jessica Bullock.
Please tune in at 1 p.m. You can hear an hour of our paraglide. At 2 p.m. for a tape broadcast of the Southern Pines pilot. At 4 p.m. you can hear Off the Bookshelf. Additionally, you will hear a rebroadcast of today's Fayetteville Observer tonight at 9 p.m. We will now join the Raleigh Network for additional news of interest. Thank you for tuning in with us. We've enjoyed being with you.